This is the Story Power Marketing Show with Tom Ruwitch. Make yourself comfortable and fasten your seatbelt. Tom and his guest are about to share powerful stories, trade business building insights, and have a few laughs. Tom created this podcast to help you captivate prospects and inspire them to act, so you can get more clients quickly and easily. That's what powerful storytelling is all about. That's what this podcast is all about. So let's get this party started. Here's your host, Tom Ruwitch.
Hello and welcome to the Story Power Marketing Show. My name is Tom Ruwitch, and today's episode is called How to Build a Biz That Depends on You Less and Pays You More. My guest today is Christy Maxfield. Christy is the founder of Purpose First Advisors, a firm that specializes in helping business owners enjoy the highest possible income, wealth, and freedom from their businesses. Christy advises business owners who want to deeply understand their business, optimize its performance, and position it to be profitable and transferable. She specializes in growth acceleration through the lens of succession and exit planning. Christy Maxfield, welcome to the Story Power Marketing Show.
Thanks so much. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you too. We've known each other now going on 20 years. You were a client of my email marketing software company. I started that in 2001. You were among the early clients. I thank you for that. And we connected many times over the years and always had great conversations about business and business growth. And I love the fact that you're bringing this to the world through your firm now. So on your website, yes, you say something big and bold right there on the front page. You say that building your business with the end in mind fuels profit and creates value you can enjoy at all stages of your entrepreneurial journey, from start to finish. So what do you mean by building your business with the end in mind?
The end is really about, why does the business exist? What is it helping you build? Ideally, from my perspective, it's helping you build a life you love. And that is something that's happening in the present tense, but it's also something you're building for in the future, because we typically think of our career or our business arc in terms of growing and then having the benefits of the growth that we've created. Mm-hmm. So starting with the end in mind doesn't necessarily mean that you're starting with I want to sell in 20 years. But what it does say is, I want to have as many options as possible at every stage of my business, so that if I want to sell in 20 years, I have a profitable business to take to market. If I want to pass this on to an heir, I'm passing on a good, solid, profitable asset to an heir. If I want to close the doors and walk away, I can do so knowing that my business has hit all of my income and saving goals along the way, and it's done what I needed it to do to build the life I love. So really knowing, if we don't have a clear destination, it's very hard to know if we're headed in the right direction. Because I often say, you could say you want to go west. If you don't specify that you want to be in San Francisco by the end of the journey, I might end up in San Diego at the end of the journey. We both went west.
Yeah, not bad, right?
Not bad. I mean, either way, I'm probably net positive. But I'm also now hundreds, if not thousands of miles apart still, right?
Sure.
And I think there's especially in aviation, the very small degree of change in your flight plan means that you don't end up where you wanted to end up.
I
that's
love
what
that.
I mean.
I love that, Christy. And you work with a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And the entrepreneurial journey often begins with someone who is an expert in some particular field, perhaps working for somebody else. And the move into entrepreneurship is often a journey of escape. I'm escaping.
It can be, for sure.
Yeah, I'm escaping the corporate world. I want to be my own boss. I want freedom. But so many entrepreneurs escape, they leave, and then they think, okay, I've done it. But to your point, this is just the beginning. Escaping isn't the end. Escaping is the start. And if you escape and then don't focus on the destination, all that you will get is a job where it's your cash flow on the line. You're working for your business. Your business is not working for you.
Correct. Most folks start by swapping one job for the other and having somebody who's responsible for their paycheck, and now they're responsible for their paycheck. The transition from employee to independent consultant, or whatever name you might give to a business owner, but really business owner with a job, versus business owner who is managing an asset. That's there's all sorts of gradients of mindset shifts that happen along the way, and most owners don't get past the owner operator. I own it, I work in it, it only exists because I'm in it. But to even just start at the beginning thinking I could build this someday to operate without me, even if I don't sell it. Like, lots of very rich people own businesses that they don't step foot in every day. And it generates a lot of wealth and income for them that allows them to have multiple choices about what they want to do with their lives and how they want to do it. So why shouldn't we all have choices along the way too?
And so when we are focusing on the end in mind, you've sort of, by working definition, explained part of the big idea here. The end, part of the end, is having a business that depends on you less.
Correct.
Because that feeling of, oh, I've got to do it myself. I can't go on vacation for 2 weeks because the business will crumble without me. I can't sell the business because this business isn't worth anything without me. All of these are miserable feelings for a business owner. Now, if the business owner loves spending 40, 50, 60 hours in the office, doesn't want to go on vacation, God bless them, right? But most business owners are not craving that. And yet they're building a business that puts them in that trap. So how do you go about getting them to that end of identifying that destination and then building the stepping stones to get there?
Well, I start right at the beginning and asking them, so what are we building? Are we building sometimes we're building a bridge to another full-time job in the future. That's not my specialty. My specialty is to help you build your business. But I ask, what are we building? Are we building something that is going to help you get the kids through college and then you'll retire? Are we building something that you think you're going to sell? Who do you think you might sell it to? Is this something you're hoping, fingers crossed behind your back, that the kids want to do when they grow up? What is it in your wildest dreams? And a lot of times folks either haven't been asked that question, or they've been asked, but they haven't really thought about it. They haven't really put that there. And so making sure they understand what drives their ability to have the personal freedom and flexibility they want today. The reason they dumped the day job was most likely, I want more flexibility. I want to have more control. Now you feel like you have less control. And if flexibility in your world is being able to go to somebody's baseball game, but then having to spend 4 hours after they go to bed doing all the work that you didn't get to do in your regular workday, to me, that's not flexibility. That's, I'm shuffling my workload. I have ability to work when and how I want, but I still have to do all the work. So really talking to them, what does it mean if you aren't in it all day, every day? And then I also share my own personal story. My dad ran our family florist for my entire life, and for his entire life, practically. He joined the business when he was 17. My grandfather started it as a side hustle. My dad, it was his job, and he very much didn't want to work for anybody else. And consequently, the business did not outlive him. Right. And so that may have been intentional on his part, but I don't think it was. I think it was, my goal right now is to have a way to make a living, take care of my family, and not have to work for anybody else. And not really thinking, how does that jeopardize the ability for there to be a next generation? How does that jeopardize the ability for this business to take care of me when I get sick? Which
Mm-hmm.
is what happened, right? So there's just, when you start to think through, oh, this business isn't me, actually. It's this thing that I am building, and I can design it in a way that helps me get the most of the good stuff that I want and the least
Yep.
of the crap stuff that I don't.
Yep.
There's always a mix of both. You're always going to have to do super boring things consistently in order to make it successful. That's just part of the equation, my friends. But if you get to do that and then hit different plateaus along the way and have different inflection points where you can make choices without feeling pressured or limited or stuck, that to me
Mm-hmm.
is a much better outcome than working really, really hard to find out there's not much there afterwards.
Exactly. Exactly. When we've talked in the past, and I've listened to your philosophies and strategies, there are three sort of key things that I often hear you talk about to achieve this low owner dependence business, this
Yeah.
this business that doesn't fully depend on you, that can function when you're sick, all these things you were talking about. And I'd like to talk about all three of these things. The first is high monthly recurring revenue, establishing a consistent monthly recurring revenue. Second is low customer concentration. And third is strong management team. So
Yeah.
let's take these one at a time. What you mean by this, and how a business owner can get on the path to meet these business goals. So high monthly recurring revenue.
High monthly recurring revenue gives you the stability you need, the cash flow you need in order to make the other decisions, like hiring a strong management team, and putting in technology and making process improvements that allow the business to be less dependent on you, right? We know that that's sort of the thing we have to make sure is, if we take the owner out of the equation, can the business still function, and can it function well, and can it function over a period of time? So more money is always better. In the near term, it gives you more resources to make these choices and investments. In the long term, a potential buyer is going to look at it and say, that's a healthy cash flow. I don't have to worry every month about what's coming in. Even in a seasonal business, we can establish that there is enough of a recurring monthly revenue so that even the seasonality isn't necessarily a detriment to the business. So we're really looking at those sales and marketing strategies and those customer relationship strategies that allow us to get there.
Exactly. And you said a moment ago that more money is better, but that critical word here is recurring revenue. The entrepreneur who is in this constant cycle of transactions,
correct,
sell something, deliver product, service, and then go and have to hunt for the next transaction, that this constant ebb and flow and no predictability, it's exhausting.
Yes.
it's detrimental to the overall health of the business, and it makes the business far less valuable and saleable in the future. So focusing on, instead of the one-off, one and done kind of transactional relationships, how can you build revenue flows with customers and build this recurring revenue flow that is going to be predictable and is going to grow, which really is a good segue into the next one: low customer concentration. What do you mean by that?
So the other thing that makes it really hard for the owner who is constantly chasing project after project is that they're depending usually on a few large things to make sure that the bills get paid. That's exhausting.
Yep.
And when one of those goes away, not only do your business development needs go up, but also the stress of that situation goes up.
Yep.
On the same, or the other side of that same coin is, if a potential buyer looks and says, wow, you've built something amazing, but it depends, 30 to 40% of your revenue, if not more, depends on 2 or 3 people deciding every year that they want to keep working with you. That's a lot of risk. I mean, it's a lot of risk for you. You don't perceive it as risk. You perceive it as stress, headache, concern, overwhelm, frustration. But your buyer perceives it as risk. That's very risky. And probably if you have that level of concentration, it's the owner that is in that relationship, which means, again, now I'm counting on a high percentage of my revenue coming from a very small number of people. And the person who's most likely responsible for making that reoccurring revenue happen is going to be out of the equation.
Yep.
That doesn't compute, right? So we need to be able to get those recurring revenues from a relatively diverse base of clients so that we're not constantly at the whim of one really big customer. Now, there are huge companies in the world who depend on really big customers, but we also know that they do huge layoffs when those customers decide to do different things.
That's right.
So,
and the untangling of those relationships is much, in many cases, much more difficult, takes much more time, comes with much more warning. And when you are an entrepreneur and you have that business relationship, 30% of your revenue or more, that thing can disappear in a blink. And I'll share with you a story from my own business. And the bulk of my business, my monthly recurring revenue, comes from membership in my Story Power, coaching programs, courses, clients who buy our technology, implement them, hire us to help them with implementation through our Implement Team program. But I also do a limited amount of one-on-one consulting. And my largest consulting client, by far my largest consulting client, didn't represent 30% of my revenue, but it was a decent monthly boost in revenue. And the relationship was getting to be draining. And for a while I thought, yeah, but this is a big client. This is a lot of revenue. And over time, I recognized and bought into the idea that, you know what, I am going to recover this revenue so quickly if I cut ties. So it wasn't a case where this client said goodbye to me. I ended up firing this client because the relationship wasn't working for me. And I very, very quickly recovered that monthly recurring revenue by focusing on selling into the core pieces of my business. And that's what happens. If you have super high customer concentration, you're spending way too much time focusing on making that customer happy at the expense of growing MMR in a sustainable and business building kind of way.
Absolutely. That distraction can kill your business in some cases.
Yep. Third thing, strong management team.
Strong management team. And it sounds so corporate-y for folks who are like, I'm a small business, I don't have a management team. Well, do you have one or two people in your organization with whom you're always vetting your ideas? They're key to anything new you want to implement. You're always getting their advice and consent and buy-in before you do things. They are the start of your core management team. They're part of the folks who are probably operating your business like it's their business, that owner mindset piece. And even if you're relatively small, if you're going to take yourself out of the equation, it does mean that rather than taking home profits, for a while, you're going to reinvest profits into hiring people to do key functions in your company, right?
Yep.
And that's going to be a step function. That's probably not going to be gradual. That's probably going to be a step function where we go, oh, we didn't have somebody who was dedicated completely to sales other than Christy. Now we're going to bring that person in. And that takes us to a whole nother level. It takes me as an owner to a new level of payroll responsibility. And it takes the company to a new level of investing resources and time and strategy into what that person has been brought on to execute. But being able to have people, I mean, you can't scale without people.
Yep, absolutely. And my guess is that and correct me if I'm wrong, that a fair amount of the work that you do with a business owner is you come into situations where that strong management team doesn't exist, and you as a business coach and advisor from the outside are modeling a lot of the things that that person needs to bring inside. You're offering
Absolutely.
accountability, you're offering strategic organization, you're helping the owner recognize here are places you can let go, and here is how to delegate, not abdicate responsibility.
Yes.
And so that's a, I don't want to call it a shameless plug, but that's a good segue into sort of plugging what you as a business coach do to help the business owner implement the things we just talked about: high MMR, low customer concentration, strong management team. What does it look like when that business owner hires you, brings you in, and you begin this process?
Yeah, I'm typically meeting with my clients no less than twice a month. That allows us to stay in close contact. Sometimes I'm meeting with them once a week. Sometimes we're even talking and doing more besides just our dedicated time together. So it really depends on what they're trying to accomplish and how fast they want to move. But my job is not to be a, hey, you should go improve sales. Bye. Talk to you in 2 weeks.
Right.
My job is to get in and frankly, up in your business, right? I want to look at your financial statements. I want to look at any plans you might be implementing. I want to talk through what your business development strategy is. I want to talk about what people do you have and how are they functioning in the business and how do you think you're going to grow from here? And I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a marketing guru. I dabble in those things. And then I refer to specialists when we need to bring them in. But my job is exactly what you said, to come in, understand what we're building, reflect that back to the owner in terms of, if this is what we're trying to build, these are the obvious next steps that we would take to do that. What's keeping us from doing that now? And how can we remove those obstacles and move forward? So it's a combination of accountability. It's a combination of shifting out of coaching into more of a consulting mode. Sometimes it's into a teaching mode. And it's really helping them increase their capacity from running the business themselves, where they're either talking to a spouse who doesn't quite get it and now is kind of freaked out that there's things that are going on in the business that are making their loved one concerned, and there's no way for them to help them. Or they've been kind of struggling in isolation, or talking to peers who are helpful to an extent, but are also running their own businesses. They don't have time to come in and dig in and help them uncover. And so we often process a lot of feelings around the decisions they've already made. Sometimes it's shame, embarrassment, frustration, disappointment. Sometimes, like you said, they've been burned somewhere along the line, and now they're wary of trusting other people to help them. But it's really this holistic relationship where I'm essentially an executive leader on their team as we build out their capacity. And that's been true even in larger firms where there's 2 owners and senior management, but they've never been brought together in that way. And they've never been asked to, they're always putting out fires. And now I'm saying, let's get together and not talk about the fires, because you're talking about those every day. Now we have to talk about the vision. And if we can get these fires under control, what is it that we really need to do to move this business forward?
Yeah, I love that, Christy. And so what you're really talking about is you step in and immediately that business has a stronger management team because you are in there as a co-manager. And a lot of the things that you describe that you do and the ways that you help are really modeling what the future strong management team without Christy can look like. When you build a strong management team, everybody is sort of co-consulting. So your peers in a good management team are consultants to you, and vice versa. They are holding you accountable. They are gathering information and teaching you things, and you vice versa. So it's a really great model. And the way that you have laid it out, I think just makes so much sense. And I hope it feels relevant, because I know so many entrepreneurs who are in that state of overwhelm, that state of just, again, working in the business, not working on the business. So
Right.
Where do people go if they're interested in immediately building that strong management team, having somebody like you come in and help?
So purposefirstadvisors.com, where you can directly schedule time with me. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So finding me on LinkedIn, being able to see the content. I believe in sharing as much about what I do, how I do it, what I think about what I do with folks so that they can get a feel for my style. And then reaching out directly, Christy, actually, it's not Christy Maxfield, it's C Maxfield at purposefirstadvisors.com. But would love to hear from you.
Yeah, C Maxfield at purposefirstadvisors.com.
Correct.
Awesome. All of that is going to be in the show notes. Christy,
Great.
Any parting thoughts?
I think that if something's holding you back from reaching out to a culture coach or consultant, really look at what is that feeling, and can you push past it to have some conversations, not just with me, but with other folks, to find somebody who's a good fit, who will help you create an environment where success is more likely than it is right now. Beautiful. And just be clear on what you want that success to be.
Outstanding. Christy Maxfield, great stuff. Thank you so much for your insights. Thank you for the great work that you do in helping business owners build great businesses. And those of you who are here to the end of this episode, thank you. Thank you. And if you're here to the end of this episode, I infer that you must have either liked what you heard or saw, or maybe you fell asleep, but wake up. Anyway, you're here to the end. I infer that means that you liked what you heard. And so that means you can, and I encourage you to go to Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your favorite podcast, press that 5-star button and leave a review. Let the world know that Christy had something valuable to share, that the Story Power Marketing Show is a great podcast, and that's how you extend the gift of learning. That's how you let people know that you got something of value here. Christy Maxfield, thank you again. And for those of you who want to transform your content from boring to brilliant, from prospect repelling to client attracting, so you can grow your business more, maximize that monthly recurring revenue, build that kind of business that Christy was describing, go to storypowermarketing.com, free resources, sign up for my never boring week daily emails, get all sorts of free downloads and valuable stuff to help you grow your business, the kind of business that Christy's talking about. Thank you again, Christy Maxfield. Thank you all for tuning in to the Story Power Marketing Show. We'll see you down the road.
Thanks for listening to the Story Power Marketing Show with Tom Ruwitch. If you liked what you heard today, visit storypowermarketing.com/resources, where you can sign up for Tom's entertaining, informative, must-read emails. Download free business building resources and discover other opportunities to help you harness the power of storytelling. That's storypowermarketing.com/resources to help you captivate prospects, inspire them to act, and grow your business with greater ease and joy. Also, please remember to subscribe to the Story Power Marketing Show with Tom Ruwitch and review it on iTunes or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Sometimes I find outside my window the very things I need.